$5.7 million. I think like he's going to want another deal on top of that. Anthony Davis is a really good player, but what kind of Anthony Davis are you going to get, and what's his availability? I think more likely than not, teams look at this and go, no, thank you, and the Mavs end up stuck with him at least through the summer.
Yeah, there'd been some reporting that, everybody in the East felt like they were an Anthony Davis away from winning the East. Given the injury, I think that's off the table. Toronto's the only other team that I could see looking at this and saying, oh, maybe we send the Jakob Poeltl contract, which we don't really like, RJ Barrett, maybe a weak first-round pick. We're in the middle of the Eastern Conference. We get Anthony Davis. We give ourselves some more upside. I'm with John, though. I think it's far likelier that they keep him. And you know what? If you're Dallas, you have Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving, and Cooper Flagg next year. Maybe you make some noise.
All right, let's get playing a matchmaker here and get to Michael Porter Jr. We've heard some mixed messages, if you will, on his availability. What, Sam, do you foresee happening?
I think it's a likelihood that they're going to trade him, right? The Nets have their first-round pick this year. They don't have it next year, which means there's that much more of an imperative for them to tank aggressively so they can get a top 3 pick, get one of these franchise guys in the draft. Michael Porter Jr. is helping you win too many games. He should have been an all-star, wasn't picked yesterday. I think there's going to be interest for him around the league. I'm going to save the Detroit breakdown for John. I know that's his favorite possible fit for Porter at the deadline. I'll throw out Houston as another possibility because the Rockets right now have $38 million in dead salary owed to Fred VanVleet and Steven Adams, guys that they love, but who aren't going to be able to play this year because of injuries. You send out that money to match on Porter, you throw in some draft capital, you bring in some shooting to really juice your half-court offense, which has kind of been the issue this year when they're not getting offensive rebounds. I think that could be a great fit, a way for Houston to kind of really jump back into the championship picture this year after losing 2 core players to injury.
Oh, I love that idea. Sending him to the Rockets is a really good one, Sam. But Sam knows me so well. We've done so many of these together that, yes, I love the idea of Michael Porter Jr. to Detroit. And, yes, the Nets have said, oh, we might be willing to keep Michael Porter Jr. But as Sam mentioned, he's good. They want to get him off that team so they can keep tanking. And the Detroit Pistons, there's some people who doubt the Pistons as the number 1 team in the Eastern Conference. I am not among them. I'm a Pistons believer, and I would love to see them upgrade. They were first in the Eastern Conference. They've got Cade Cunningham, who's just an absolute killer. Jalen Duren has really leveled up, but they get most of their offense in the paint, right? Michael Porter Jr., as Sam said, could really add some half-court shooting. It's been a lot of Duncan Robinson from deep and not much else. They're just 18th in three-point percentage. And Michael Porter Jr., when he was in Denver, I was a little bit of a doubter. With the Nets, when he's getting his usage rate going up and he's getting clean shots, he looks like the guy that we always thought he could be. Big, fast, strong, athletic, and absolutely can shoot. That would be a huge level up for the Detroit Pistons, who could offer up to 4 first-round draft picks for Michael Porter Jr. It's not going to take that many. He's not Giannis. A couple of those, maybe Jaden Ivey, Ron Holland. I think you get that deal done and everybody's happy.
Guys, let's end here quickly with touching on the Pelicans, a team who's really been at the center of a ton of trade rumors recently surrounding Zion Williamson. Chances, John, that Zion could actually be on the move, though?
Yeah, I think eventually, yes. At this trade deadline, probably not, because the Pelicans have signaled that they're not really willing to move on from him. But I think one of these days, somebody in the Pelicans front office, and they just shifted the front office to Joe Dumars from David Griffin, but one of these days, somebody in the Pelicans front office is going to look around and go, it's time to move on from Zion Williamson. The problem with him is that he is frequently unavailable. He's played more games this season than he played all of last year. That's great. But in 7 NBA seasons, there have been 3 where he played 30 games or fewer, and 1 season where he didn't play at all. And they like Derek Queen a lot, and those 2 guys do not fit together. I would take whatever I could get for Zion, but I'm not sure what kind of market there is for him 7 years into his NBA career, when we've been waiting for him to be the main guy in the NBA, and he never has developed into that.
Yeah, just consider it this horribly inefficient use of resources to pay Zion Williamson the max and also to pay this huge draft pick toll to get Derek Queen when they're very similar players, similar size, same position, both need to have the ball a lot. It would be in New Orleans' best interest to turn that $40 million salary slot into, say, a rim protector or another shooter, somebody who makes a little bit more sense playing next to Derek Queen. But the Pelicans aren't necessarily rational actors. And I don't know how much of a market Zion has given the salary, given the injuries. We've heard a little bit of Chicago buzz. I don't know if there's anybody else out there. I think it's more likely that the Pelicans keep Zion, maybe reevaluate this in the offseason. But if I were them, I'd be looking to trade him the moment I could.
All right. Seems like a timing thing there in New Orleans. Gentlemen, always great to see you here on CBS Sports HQ with the very latest on the rumors as the trade deadline in the NBA rapidly approaches, just 3 days away. 7 o'clock Eastern time begins some of the NBA games going on tonight. We'll see the Rockets and Pacers at 7:30, the Timberwolves and Grizzlies, and then our nightcap, the 76ers and Clippers at 10 Eastern.
All right, Dub Nation, let's talk about this, because this one feels different. This is not your usual superstar rumor. This is not Giannis. This is not LeBron. This is not some fantasy trade that only works on 2K. This is one of those moves that looks quiet on the surface, but when you really break it down, it might actually be the most dangerous thing the Warriors could do. Michael Porter Jr. And I know the first reaction for a lot of fans is probably, wait, MPJ? That's it? That's who we're getting excited about? But that's exactly why this is scary. Because the league is obsessed with big names, with MVPs, with viral trades. And sometimes the real killers are the ones nobody is screaming about on ESPN every 5 minutes. Look at the situation. The Warriors are in that weird space where Steph is still Steph, still giving you elite production, still bending defenses like no other player in basketball. But the window is not infinite anymore. This isn't 2016. This isn't 2018. This is the last real phase of the dynasty. Every move now has to be about one thing: maximizing Steph Curry's gravity before it's gone. And that's where Michael Porter Jr. starts to make way too much sense. Because what is the biggest problem for Golden State right now? It's not effort, it's not culture, it's not IQ. It's spacing, consistency, and half-court scoring when Steph gets trapped. Every single playoff series lately has looked the same. Steph runs around, 2 defenders chase him, sometimes 3, and the ball swings to someone who either hesitates, misses, or can't punish the defense enough to make them pay. Now imagine that pass going to MPJ. A 6'10" shooter, high release, doesn't need space, doesn't need 10 dribbles, just catch, rise, and fire. That's not a role player. That's not a nice piece. That's a structural change to how defenses can guard Golden State. Because now you're in a nightmare scenario as a defense. You trap Steph? Fine. The ball goes to Porter, and he's shooting over your best wing like he's not even there. You stay home on Porter? Cool. Now Steph is dancing one-on-one again. You try to rotate from the big? That's a layup or a dunk for someone cutting. It becomes pick your poison all over again, the same way it used to feel with Clay at his peak, but with even more size. And the scary part? MPJ is still only in his prime years. This isn't some washed veteran trying to squeeze one last run. This is a guy who, when healthy and confident, looks like a walking 22 points without even forcing the game. That's why this move feels dangerous in a way that super team fantasies don't. Because it's realistic, it's logical, it fits basketball-wise, not just headline-wise. And let's talk about the context of the league. Everyone is chasing the same thing: stars, Giannis, Luka, Jokic-level guys. But those moves cost you everything: picks, young players, flexibility, depth. You go all in, and you better be right, because if you're wrong, you're cooked for a decade. MPJ is different. He's expensive, yes. He has injury history, yes. But the price is not nuke your entire future level. It's more like smart risk level, the kind of risk that actually lines up with where the Warriors are in their life cycle. Because Golden State doesn't need another ball-dominant star. That's the key. They don't need someone who wants to dribble for 15 seconds. They don't need someone who changes the identity of the team. They need someone who amplifies what already exists. And Michael Porter Jr. does exactly that. He doesn't need plays called for him every possession. He doesn't need to be the emotional leader. He doesn't need to control the offense. He just needs to do one thing at an elite level: punish defenses for focusing on Steph. That's it. That's the job. And if he does that, the Warriors become terrifying again, without even looking like a super team on paper. Now, let's be honest. There are risks. The injuries are real. The back issues are no joke. This is not a guaranteed slam dunk. But here's the thing. Every single realistic move the Warriors can make comes with risk. There is no perfect option. There is no magical trade that gives you an MVP without consequences. So the real question becomes, what kind of risk actually fits your timeline? Is it better to gamble on a 30-plus-year-old superstar who needs the ball and costs your entire future? Or is it better to gamble on a prime-age elite shooter whose skill set ages well and doesn't conflict with your franchise player? From a pure basketball logic perspective, MPJ is one of the cleanest fits you can possibly imagine. And that's why this move feels so sneaky, because it doesn't feel flashy enough for casual fans. It doesn't dominate headlines. It doesn't break the internet. But coaches see it. Analysts see it. Defenders definitely see it. They see a lineup where Steph has more space than he's had in years. They see a team that can finally survive those non-Steph minutes because Porter can still generate offense without everything collapsing. They see a playoff scenario where you can't just load up on Curry anymore. And that's when it clicks. This isn't about becoming the most talented roster in the NBA. This is about becoming the most annoying, most unguardable, most strategically painful team to face in a 7-game series. The kind of team that doesn't beat you with raw power, but beats you because every decision you make is wrong. You help, they score. You don't help, they score. You switch, they shoot over you. You trap, they punish you. That's Warriors basketball at its best. And Michael Porter Jr. fits that machine almost too perfectly. So yeah, maybe this doesn't feel like Giannis, maybe this doesn't feel like a blockbuster, but sometimes the moves that don't feel crazy are the ones that end up changing everything. Because if MPJ walks into Chase Center, stands in the corner, and starts hitting threes off Steph doubles, the entire narrative flips. Suddenly, the Warriors aren't a nice story. They aren't a nice play-in team. They're right back to being that team nobody wants to see in April. Not because they're louder, not because they're younger, not because they're stacked with MVPs, but because they're once again built around the most terrifying concept in basketball: Steph Curry with real spacing. And if that happens, Dub Nation, the league might not be ready for how fast everything changes.